What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week, and this week is no exception. Let me say hello to the folks who are here so far. I see Sus, Datamanoid, and Valentino in the YouTube chat, and I see, let's see, who's here? Leonix, Benoit, Alternate Ved, Fade, Trev, and I think I see Jeff, Jake, Ronaldo. Oh, that's in the System Crafters chat. That explains it. Yes, Jeff is in the other chat. That's right. Minas Mazar, excuse me, Pi the Sailor. All right. Hello, everybody. Also, hello to Dominic, to Dislike W, Michael. Nice to see you. Okay. So yes, busy week. You've probably seen an inordinate amount of notifications. I guess it is ordinate. You can count it, but it seems like too many. Many notifications this week. We'll talk about that in a minute. Jeff says, had to wait for the ads, and I noticed a skip option. How YouTube doesn't know I'll always hit that skip button. Sorry about that. Yes, I know. They should just do it for you, right? But I guess then they don't make money. Okay, so let me get into the news for the week. First of all, I just opened, whoops, that's the wrong month. I just opened registration for the hands-on Guile Scheme for Beginners course June edition or iteration. That is the same course I've been running since February. Wow. Let's see, where is that? Right here. So it is an 8-week course where I've got a bunch of written and video material to teach you everything from the fundamentals of Scheme to how to do functional programming with Scheme and just functional programming concepts in general. And then we get into practical programming with Guile, working with, normal types and the file system and the system and all the things you might want to do, like writing your own modules. Then we get into like full Guile application development, where you accept input from the user, deal with command line arguments, write your own modules. A whole lot of stuff. There's over 6 hours of video in there. I've spent the last few months recording everything and rewriting a bunch of the material from the first couple of iterations. So it's jam-packed with content, and it's all taken into account the feedback I've been getting from everybody who's gone through the course so far. So it's in a pretty good spot right now, and we've been having a lot of fun with it. So not only do you have the written and video material, you also have the exercises that come along with each of the chapters, and the forum where you get to chat with the other people who are taking the course. And then there's 4 live Q&A sessions that are scheduled. You can see the schedule somewhere down the page right here, where we all get together for an hour and just discuss the material from the course, the exercises, or anything that you have in mind for related to Scheme, Guix, etc. So it's a good time. People seem to enjoy it, and I definitely enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So if you're interested in learning Scheme, and particularly Guile Scheme, definitely check that out. Registration is open now. This course starts on June 8th, and the first live meeting will be on June 16th, the following weekend. And also up until June the 3rd, there is a 10% discount on the registration fee. So if you register early, you can make use of that. So definitely give that a look in case you're interested. If you have any questions about the course, please feel free to just find me wherever you can find me. David at systemcrafters.net, or find me on IRC. Please feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer questions. But it's a good time. I think you'll learn a lot. And that's my spiel for the day. Let's see. What next? Oh, yes. We've also been doing the Spring Lisp Game Jam this week. You've probably seen a whole bunch of stream notifications from me this week. You're probably tired of seeing stream notifications from me this week. That's okay. I'm sorry for the the spam, but I hope that some of you have been watching and enjoying the Game Jam streams. It's been a lot of fun for me because I'm getting to use GUILE Hoot, which is the scheme to WebAssembly compiler by the Sprightly Institute that we've been talking about a lot for the last few months for this. And the latest released GUILE Hoot 0.4.1 is significantly improved from the previous versions that I've been using. I really feel like now I'm writing real scheme code. I've got record types, vectors, user-defined modules. The errors are a lot better now. It's most of the time I can figure out what's going wrong in the code. A lot of stuff. So much better now. Definitely worth trying out GUILE Hoot if you haven't tried it yet. I know a number of people in the community are working on their own entries for the Game Jam. Some are working with GUILE Hoot, some are working with Guile itself using Chickadee, others are using other languages. So it's been cool to see all the other folks working on their projects as well. I've got a forum thread. The link is in the show notes. If you've been working on your own project for the Jam, go post your project there too, so that everybody can kind of find each other's projects. I'm also thinking that maybe next Friday I might run through some of the games, because the Jam is over on Monday. So on Friday, I might, the next Friday stream, I might run through some of the submissions, especially the ones by the people in the community. So if you can make your game runnable on GNU Guix or in the browser, then I can probably try to run your game. We'll see. You can definitely run my game because it's in the browser. If you want to check that out, go to this link here. It's on the Flux Harmonic itch site. And you can actually just go there, click run game, and load it up and start it. It's basically a dungeon crawler, but instead of you playing the hero, you're playing the monsters and you're trying to stop the hero. And to do that, you have to write code, basically, to control their logic. So it's been a lot of fun to work on it. I don't know how much fun it will be to play it, but that's okay. We're just trying to, make some cool stuff and pass some time. The code is also available on Codeberg in case you want to take a look at that. I don't know why I just did that. And it's all written in Scheme. So not so much JavaScript this time, which is great. Let me see what else we got going on in the chat. Fikri says next port Doom on Hoot. That would be pretty awesome. I've actually considered something like that. And also says, if you keep doing this after August, I'll sign up. Get a little tight on money since I got married. We'll get married in August. Well, congratulations. That's cool. Yes, the course will continue happening. I don't know what the frequency will be. It's sort of been every month up until now, but I might slow it down and prioritize other things. It really just depends, because I don't want to overwhelm people with the same thing all the time. Let's see, YouTube side. I'm trying to monitor 3 different chats at the same time, and it's interesting. Alternate Vet says, too bad my work is happening during Game Jam streams. Glenna says, very much been enjoying your streams. Vet says, not much of a scheme guy. Yeah. Maybe you'll become one by watching the streams. Who knows? But yes, we're done with the Game Jam streams for a little while at the end of this week. I keep clicking links. So back to your regularly scheduled System Crafters programming. All right, now this is starting to get annoying. Is it going to start doing this repeatedly the whole stream? All right, good. Also, my plan is to actually get a video out next week for the first time in forever. So I think it will be interesting. Zerka says put your Twitch link. Twitch.tv/systemcrafters. All right. Also, we got the new issue of System Crafters newsletter out today. That is issue number 10. It's quite a lot of stuff in there this time. What I'm realizing is that I can't actually get out a newsletter every week. There's just no time for that, and probably there's not enough interesting stuff to talk about every week. So I'm going to start shooting for once a month, because that feels like the right rhythm for sending these out. I've basically been doing that already, but now I'm going to sort of formalize that in my mind. Okay, it makes sense to send one out once a month. That way things will have a lot more detail and will be more useful and interesting, I think. So that should be fun. But definitely check out this this newsletter entry. I also want to change how I deliver the newsletters. I mean, the emails are fine, but I kind of want to put a better representation on the website of the newsletter, and maybe have an RSS feed. So keep an eye out for that. I've probably said that before. I just haven't gotten back to it. Alternate Vet says, a video? Yes. Do we make those anymore? Well, we will be now. We're about to start making a lot of them. So get ready. Also be speaking at Guix London next week. That's on the 29th, Wednesday. I'll basically be sharing my current best practices for using Guix to manage system configurations and development workflow. This is a kind of a cool event because not only do they have people coming to speak at the event, they also have a patch review session in the second half of the hour, I think, where they all go through current patches to Guix and review them. I don't know if they actually like merge them, but they definitely review them and try to understand, learn new things about contributing to Guix. So I think that's a pretty nice event. Worthwhile to check it out, even if you don't go for my talk. And let's see, there's a link to their page as well. Is that everything? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot to put in here. Regarding the game jam, I'll be streaming 2 more times this weekend, I think. Saturday and Sunday. I'm pretty sure it will happen, barring that other things like don't come up. So we'll see about that. But we're going to try to finish this thing off strong and then go back into the regularly scheduled programming. So today, I haven't written anything up on this yet, but I did sort of talk about it a little bit in the newsletter. One thing that has been added to Guix in the last year is this new OCI container service type. So Guix OCI container service type. Let's see. I'm looking for the docs. Guix manual. I think it's in the, you need to go to the development manual. So there's the manual and then there's the devel manual. It has the latest information. Separate page per node. Is it miscellaneous services? It might be. OCI container. There we go. So OCI backed services. Should you wish to manage your Docker containers with the same consistent interface you use for your other shepherd services, OCI container service type is the tool to use. Given an OCI container image, it will run a shepherd service. One example where it is useful, it lets you run services that are available as Docker images but not yet packaged for Guix, which is kind of a big deal because there's lots of software that is kind of difficult to package for Guix for various reasons, but it's stuff that you would like to self-host if you run a Guix server of your own, either locally or in the cloud. So this has been kind of a new, it's an important new addition for me at least, because it allows me to not have to just run Docker on the command line to get certain containers up, things that I want to be running all the time. The example that I gave in the newsletter is running a media software called Jellyfin. So if I were to go to my acid burn configuration, where is it? xvp.files, find file acid burn. So if I go here, I'm actually using this to run the software called Jellyfin. If you don't know about Jellyfin, Jellygen, yes. There we go. Jellyfin is a free software media player. So if you've heard of something like Plex before, Plex is kind of infected with stuff that tries to get you to upgrade to some kind of like extra stuff, or maybe they have their own streaming service stuff built in. Jellyfin is not like that. It's the same kind of thing where you have a server running where you can play, media in your home environment or even play it to other places. And it also connects with like Chromecast and other like casting to TV screen type software. So really cool, useful software, but it's written in .NET, and .NET itself is not currently packaged for Guix in the main channel. So you can't package Jellyfin as a consequence of that. So the only way to run Jellyfin in Guix right now is Docker, I believe. I don't know if they have that in FlatHub, Jellyfin. I think they have clients. Oh, do they have servers now? Okay, maybe FlatHub has it too. But still, I kind of feel like if you want to have a reproducible setup for the software that you want to host, Guix is a better solution. You can't set up Flatpak software with Guix, at least not currently. So using Guix to host the container as a service is really the best way to do it. And this has been working excellently for me. I know it's been working for some other people who have tried it in the channel or in the chat recently. So basically what we see here is that we instantiate the OCI container service type, which is the service type that we're dealing with here. And it takes a list of container configurations. So we see that there's a list here. This is an OCI container configuration, and then it has the configuration parameters for that. So the image here is basically where you would install the container image from, and I think by default it's looking at the Docker hub. So can I copy a link to this? Let me see if I can do that. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Super professional. This is a really professional operation we have going on here. I didn't ask you. No. Listen, if you want to be more professional, you should like give me some more money so I can make the setup better, you know, better camera, maybe have something that causes my nose not to itch while I'm streaming so that I don't have to sneeze half the way through. Okay, well, figure it out, you know, talk to your people, sign some contracts, find a way to give me some more money. Why am I avoiding shilling your product if you're not going to give me more money? Anyway, forget about it. So, OCI-backed services. You can install pretty much anything that comes from Docker Hub. I'm trying to see if they say Docker Hub. Docker. Okay, so each OCI container configuration record translates to a Docker run invocation and its fields directly map to options. You can refer to the upstream documentation for the semantics of each value. Okay, so you're basically just running Docker run as a result of calling this. And if you go look at the parameters of Docker run, the fields of the configuration map to those. So you get things like the image name, the networking configuration, like if you want host networking config, or maybe you want like a, you know, set up a bridge or something. Also port mappings, which are pretty important if you want to get software that's inside of the container to have its ports exposed externally, which I think is the case in many softwares. And you can, like you see here, you can have multiple container instances, all with their own configurations. So what I thought would be kind of interesting to do today would be to see if we can set up containers using this OCI container service type and connect them to Guix services that are running that do similar things. Like for instance, like having an Nginx front end that can be the endpoint that routes calls to the various containers that you have whenever they make a HTTP request through your Nginx server. And also potentially like a database, like a PostgreSQL database that the containers could connect to. We might try to set up Forgejo, where it's written like Forgejo, but I think it's Forgejo. We might try to set that up with a PostgreSQL server and maybe fronted by Nginx. We'll see if we can actually get that to work. I'm not exactly sure how successful we'll be, but I have a vague feeling that it will work. And there was something else I said. Oh, like Peertube. Peertube is a really cool piece of software that's kind of difficult to host on Guix because it has all of the, you know, JavaScript ecosystem stuff for the front end. So anything that has a bunch of JavaScript front end stuff is going to be difficult to host, or sorry, to package for Guix because there's so many packages for all the things that they need to build front end JavaScript applications, and many of them just aren't packaged for Guix. Kikenzoot says, what's happening? Nothing's happening. We're just having a little bit of fun. All right. We're playing a little sketch comedy here. It's a little sketch comedy. It's not real, okay? I'm not talking to somebody. Just to let you know. Now I'm gonna pretend I didn't say that. Let's see. I think Peter said, is it not a very heavy way to run containers? Not really, because you're just having it. I mean, okay, if you're not already using Guix, probably you will just use Docker Compose because obviously it's there. You'll want to use it. But if you are using Guix and there's certain software that you want to host that are only in containers, it seems to me to be a perfectly feasible way to run those. Let's see. Purple Cheese said, I had my headphones off for the beginning of that bit. It was very confused. Don't be confused. Just go with it. Come on. We got to, you know, inject some entertainment here. Rashal says, no, if you're not using Guix, then you're definitely using NixOS. I don't think so. There's plenty of people who are not using NixOS or Guix. Chris says, still calling it Forgejo. I mean, honestly, it looks like Forgejo, so I'm not really going to judge anyone for thinking it's Forgejo. I thought it was too. All right. So let's get this going. What I'm going to do is just use my own configuration to set this stuff up, because if I try to like download a VM and set up the VM and make a configuration work in the VM, then we're going to be here for an hour until we get something going. Because I didn't have time to prepare because I was too busy working on game code today. So we're going to copy this and bring it into my configuration for this system, which is a different config file. And then we will get started. So this is Phantom. All right, so I got an empty services list here. That's a good place to start. So we'll drop this stuff right here. Did I get the whole services list? Yeah, all right, so I'll just comment this out for now. And I'll get rid of the jellyfin stuff. So Vishal says Podman greater than Docker. Yeah, Podman's cool. I haven't gotten it to work correctly in Guix yet. I think people have been working on that though. I've seen some patches that should help with it. I wanted to do Forgejo. Alternate Vet says, is there a way to use OCI container stuff with Podman and Guix? I don't know. Group command, override the default command of the image. No. Provision network ports, volumes. They don't give you the ability to override the command that's being used, I think. It would be nice if they did. In many services in Guix, they give you the ability to override the core command that's being used, or the package for the core command that's being used, so you can use something different. However, I think that this one is pretty tied to Docker, so that's probably why you can't switch to something else. Is there a reason why people would prefer to use Podman when this is going to be running as a system service? It's not like you would get the benefit of running Podman rootless, because this is root by default. Ikinzu says, how do we deal with the pull limits on registries such as Docker Hub? I've never personally run into it. So, I mean, I guess you would have to be pulling nonstop for that to happen, wouldn't you? Is there like a low limit for that? I've not actually run into it before. Hello to Rob. Vishal says, I wonder if there's a Guix alternative to Nginx Flakes. Yes, it's the Guix system configuration with the added... we talked maybe, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago about the new features that are in Guix. One of them is the ability to set your channel configuration in your system config. Another is the ability to set your home configuration in your system config. Those things together effectively make something like Flakes. It may not do everything the same as Flakes, but it does give you the ability to have an entire system configuration that's locked to a specific channel configuration. So that is something to look into if you're looking for Flakes. I have started using something like that in my own config. If you look at my base configuration, I am now using that home service configuration, home service, the Guix home service type, because I prefer only using one command to update all my stuff and not having to do, Guix system reconfigure, Guix home reconfigure separately. What I've found is that if you don't have any changes that you've made to your system config, then running Guix system reconfigure just to update your home config is actually quite fast. It already knows that the system's up to date, so it just goes and updates the home config when you make changes to it. So I kind of feel like this is a pretty good way to use it. You don't have to go do separate stuff for home config. And I still think you have the ability to look at generations of your home config, like Guix home list generations. I think that says it. What is the latest? The latest, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. If you can't get generations for home, that would be kind of strange. But maybe it's considered a system generation at that point. If you roll back the system gen, it rolls back to home generation. I don't know. That's something worth looking into. Still, I think this is a good way to do it. There's also the channel config. I don't think I do that here because I have a different approach that I use for that. But the channel config thing is also really nice. All right. So I wanted to add a, let's see, Forgejo Docker. Vishal says on Nginx I can get it via home manager generations. Normally you would do that on Guix as well, but I don't think that it's working. All right, so Docker. I mean, I guess if I just pull the name, it should be enough, shouldn't it? We're about to get Forgejo working so easily compared to what we did, what was it, 4 or 5 months ago, and I tried to package it for Guix and run it in a container, and it was just a total nightmare. That's okay. It's the way it went. Forgejo. Okay, so let's take a look at all this stuff here too. Environment, user UID, user GID, networks. So it creates its own network, which is kind of interesting. External false. Maybe they're trying to prevent, yeah, okay, so it does that and then it exposes ports. You still might want to have access to like databases and stuff, so this may be too restrictive for something like what we're trying to do. We'll see. If you install Home Manager as part of the NixOS module, you don't get direct access to Home Manager, but itself becomes a part of the NixOS rebuild system. Okay, that's probably what happens in Guix as well. All right. So, whoops, let's see. We have a few volumes we need to set up. Why? We're sort of taking the local time zone information. That's interesting. Does Guix have that? Ets time zone? Okay, it does have it. Good. And then ets local time. Okay, has that too. /Forgejo data. So we can sort of decide where we would want to put that data. Since it's running at the system level, I wonder if we could just tell it like some random path, run / current system / or maybe let me in var. Is that where people put things? Var run. Perhaps that. Var run Forgejo. So let's try this out. I'm gonna try so / data. Why are there two / like system / run? I don't know. Now Katani says var, where people put things. Yes, it is like that. Var run Forgejo. And then the other one was the etc. Whoops, etc. local time. And etc. local time colon RO. Okay, etc. time. So we'll do the same thing again for time zones since I forgot that one. Okay, and then we'll get rid of this last one here too. Oh, come on. I'm tripping on the bindings a little bit right now. So I saw Arnaud in the stream chat, and Arnaud told me in a comment, which I haven't replied to yet, that you can use meta space to do cycle spacing. I haven't see, does that work? Ooh, nice. Okay, I've not seen that before, but that's awesome. That'll save some time. So if you do like Control K meta space a couple times, and it will fix those spacing at the end. All right, I like that. Thanks, Arnaud, for the tip. I don't know if you're still here. So we got the volume mappings right. Let's look at the port mappings. We got a few here. We got 3000, 3000. And then we also have 3000. And we want to add another one for 222 to 22. But that might not work on this machine because I have SSH already running. So let me just use a different port for that and see if it works. Loeb, sorry, I missed your post earlier. Can you use this solely for deployments, or do you need a full-on Guix system for the benefits? Well, you would be deploying this to a Guix system, I think. It is possible. Well, I don't know if you could do that. You could deploy this into a container, but that would be a little bit wacky, I think. You could basically create a VM image for this and deploy it to the cloud if you wanted to. But yeah, you would basically be using Guix already if you're trying to benefit from this. So I'm going to do host networking, and then we're provisioning for Forgejo. And then what else do I need? I don't know about the user stuff here. I may not need that. Restart always. Do they have that in the configuration? I don't think I saw that. But maybe Shepard will take care of that, actually. Oh, restart always does that in the system level config. That's not needed for this. Container user. Set the user inside the spawn container. Volumes, ports, networks, provision. Rochelle says, actually deploying this to a Docker along with Dockerfile would be interesting, especially if your program only takes only with a Docker file. You can deploy other Guix stuff to Docker containers, that's for sure. I've done it. User group. All right, command. Environment. I don't know if that's right though. Like, why would you set the user to that unless you assumed it was the current user and the only user on the system? Isn't that what that implies? I guess if you're running it as yourself and the idea is that you're running the data in your local user folder, then sure. I probably would need to set the user ID to the same one that's being run. Anyway, whatever. Let's actually try to run it and see if it works. Provision Forgejo. That should all work. Should, in quotation marks. We will find out now whether it does or not. So update system. This is my own script. In fact, I'll show you what it says. Update system, just so that you know I'm not doing any black magic here. Sudo Guix system. I'm adding my .files folder to the load path. It's the reconfigure sub command, and I'm just telling it to run the configuration file for the current system by pulling the host name. So that's Phantom. So it's just a plain old Guix system reconfigure. I'm missing a closing parenthesis in Phantom, so let's see if I can find out where that is. Looks like I didn't close out the full operating system declaration. In fact, I have more than that, so I need to see why I'm missing things. It is a green parenthesis. I must have gotten close. Okay. Let's try it again. Michael says, I turn away for a moment, you're installing Forgejo. Why not, like, say, GitLab? I don't know. I mean, I personally don't want to use GitLab, but I imagine you could do it the same way. All right, so I need to turn off, what you call it, the keycast mode. Jeez. Thank you. Try again. Yes, I had to try again because of the difficulties with keycast mode, wanting to expose my password. oci-container-service-type. All right, I need to make sure I import the Docker service. Let me check the Guix code because I don't remember exactly which one that's in. Docker services, OCI container service. Okay, so that's in Guix services Docker. So where are we? Guix, sorry, GNU. Use module, GNU services Docker. That should do it. Just waiting. Probably in the background is pulling that container. What is it, 3000? Maybe if we go to port 3000, we should be able to see the service running once it's all done. Let's check it right now. Localhost 3000. Did I put that there? That can't be right. Did I put that there? What would I be running? What's been running this whole time in the background? I didn't do that. How do you figure out what program it has a certain port open? Unless it is Forgejo. I mean, it's pulling the fave icon. LS of. Thanks, Nakatani. Probably so. Four of 4. Okay, not found. All right. Installation configuration. Dun, 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 dun. I think it usually pulls up a page. So I'm not sure what is actually running on that port right now. Let's see if I have ls of. Okay. Wait a second. Is that my chat server? That must be my chat server. I've got on port 3000 also. Uh-huh. That's my chat server. Okay, thank God. It's me, folks. It's me. Hosting software I forgot about. That's central to the stream. I think we have monsters from the game joining the chat again. What's going on here? Okay, so let me pick a different port. The Docker port configuration, where is that? Ports. So I think, is the left side the container port and the outside is the... Okay, 8080 the container to port 80. Ooh, it's backwards. Not what I expected it to be. Okay. So I need to go fix some stuff in the config. So let's do this. I should be able to tell if the container's running by saying herd status. And let's see, is Forgejo in here? I don't see it at all, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if it failed to run for some reason. So we'll put it to like 8,000. 8081. Let's all remember that it's 8081. Not that. Thank you to QQQ and Michael for the net stat suggestion. I got it figured out now on that at least. Now we're waiting again. All right. Just waiting for it to finish. I guess it's not much faster doing it this way. I wonder if the home config thing also is contributing to the slowness. Because now I see it doing the home config because it's doing my patch to Doom themes. It sure is taking a long time. Maybe I could take that out temporarily. Hopefully it won't destroy my system if I do that. I wonder what happens if you've been using the home service. So Guix home services, what is it called? Base. Guix home service type. Where is that? You're using Guix system, Guix home service type on how to embed your home configuration in your system config, such as Guix system reconfigured deploys both your system and your home. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned if I try to run it like that. If I take that config out, then it's going to delete my home config. So let's not play with that. Herd status. Now I'm really confused as to why this is not starting. Usually I do see jellyfin mentioned. Oh, you know why? Let me check what I'm doing in my other configs. If I go look at base services, list. Is that the fix? User services system? Oh, okay, there it is right there. Very weird that this is not showing up now. Oh, that's because I'm not very smart. Herd status. Forgejo stopped. Sudo herd start Forgejo. Failed to start service. Okay, so I wonder if there is an error preventing this. Can I get the logs? Where can I go for that? Var log. I don't know if it's in var log Guix. Guix daemon. Nope. Guix shepherd log. Oh, just var log. Weren't we just here? Var log messages, maybe? Is this binary? No. Currently disabled. Oh, unable to find image. Thank you. Manifest unknown. Exited with 125. Okay, so it tried to pull it. Manifest unknown. So let's look at Docker Hub. Docker Hub, because this image is on the container registry over at Codeberg. And I wonder if it's just harder for it to understand. I don't know if this is built on the the official image. Can you tell me where it comes from? Is there like a Git repo? Does not look like it. A little bit concerned about running just random stuff. Recently updated. You can replicate this distroless setup from SUSE. Building a distroless image? I shouldn't have to do that. Latest builds of Forgejo compiled weekly. Okay. Let's just take a look at this. before we start running things. It's a workflow that builds the software. Okay. So it basically just builds Forgejo directly from the main repo and makes an image. That's probably okay for the purpose of this demonstration. Let's just give it a shot and see what happens. Then we wait again. I don't know if I needed to put like the Docker Codeberg container registry. Yeah. Whatever. Let's just do this. For now. Okay, we're going to run this again and see what happened. In the meantime, I'll see if I can find a Docker container for Peertube. Hopefully there is a public one for that somewhere. Peertube directory. Yo, some in file. Oh boy, extra work. So they have a Docker Compose setup, which we can probably rip off. Oh, okay, this is where the latest Compose file is coming from. Okay, we can take a look at the source. How complicated is that? Let's see. Okay, you got certbot. You could run certbot in a container. But you don't really need to do that because... Did I run the wrong thing? I did run the wrong thing. Because there is a certbot service that works with Nginx in Guix. Not perfect, but it does work. Okay, there is a Docker Container Hub image for Peertube. Some of these things, it would be nice just to see if they work. All right, volumes, type, bind. There's an assets. Is this after cloning the repo? What is this? Seems like you got to do everything a special way here. You can't just run a container. You got to like have some local files to wire everything together. Which I suppose is fine if you're on a server where you just sort of drop some files and run Docker. But for me, I want things to be a bit more reproducible than that. What other software would be interesting to run in a container that someone might want to have on a server somewhere? I'm trying to think of other things that I would want to use. I mean, there's obviously things like a bouncer. You could run, there's a Soju bouncer Docker. Soju Docker image. There's not an official one, it seems. There seems to be some unofficial ones. A lot of these, you know, yeah, that one's archived. A lot of these repos are not maintained and they don't automatically push out new images. 3 years ago. Or ZNC. Well, but I guess there's already a ZNC. There isn't. Is there a ZNC system service in Guix? Failed to start service Forgejo. It's going great, everybody, as usual. Invidious. Okay, maybe that. Okay, let's maybe revert buffer. 56, is that, yeah, okay. Forgejo. Why is it still trying to pull from the other place? Laroma or Mastodon? Yeah, that could be nice. What is Minio? Okay, that's cool. Let's see. Mastodon, Docker. Oh yeah, they got like a Linux server image. This is kind of a good little group of projects, I think. I'm not sure why. Can I enable it? Okay, now we're seeing some output in the logs. It's pulling the image. I wonder if I needed to do that before. I think it got disabled before because it couldn't find that image, and I think it just kept trying to restart it, and it gave up. Let's see. Address already in use. Why? I thought I set up the bind correctly. Docker port forwarding. Yes, I know. I want you to tell me the order of the ports in the string. Blah, blah, blah. Where's the colon? Colon, colon, colon. Host port, container port. Okay. So I don't know why I was complaining about 3000, because I'm not using 3000. Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Host networking. That must be why. So. Docker documentation. Docker run. Network. Excuse me. Do I have to create a network? Oh, excuse me. Default bridge network only allows containers to communicate with each other using internal IP addresses. User-created bridge networks provide DNS resolution between containers using container names. Yeah, I think the problem is I'm using host networking and it's exposing everything. My guess is that it's exposing everything inherently. Am I wrong about that? I don't know why else it would say that 3000 is already in use inside the container, because that's the only, I mean, it's in the container, unless host networking is causing that. Why? I don't actually see, oh, network equals host. So I wonder if I create a network for it, let's say. Where is the docs? Did I lose the docs I was using? There they are. So network, set a Docker network for the spawn container. Maybe I haven't created that yet. If it doesn't create it for you, that would be pretty weird. So let me actually just try that. Backend Phantom, I'll create a network. I don't know. I'm no Docker expert, so I might be doing something really dumb right now. If you're yelling at me at the screen saying, no, you're doing it wrong, just tell me in the chat so I fix it. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. I don't know if you set up the host networking bridge, Docker host network, attach the container. How do I attach the container? Is not isolated from the Docker host, and it doesn't get its own IP address allocated. The container's application is available on port 80 on the host IP address. Exactly. So that's what's happening. It's trying to get port 3000, but that's already being used by the host because I have a program running that has port 3000 open. All right. Published ports are discarded. Yes. Networking from the container's point of view. All right, create custom user-defined networks, connect multiple containers to the same network. Once connected to a user-defined network, containers can communicate with each other using container IP addresses or container names. Following network drivers are available by default. Bridge, host. Is there just bridge? It isn't necessary to publish the container's ports. You can enable inter-container communication by connecting containers to the same network, usually a bridge network. Let's take a look if Forgejo is running. So let's also check the messages list. Something happened. So Forgejo. Oh, it's disabled because it had those errors before. So anytime that there's errors happening, it just shuts that service down. Network Forgejo not found. So how would you set that up? Because otherwise, it's not reproducible completely if you had to do it that way. Let's go to the Guix repo. Docker service. So Docker service type extensions. Let's see, Docker CLI, Docker configuration. Container D. Interesting. So if you set up your Docker configuration, it's possible. Could you switch this to be using Podman instead, maybe? IP tables, config like, no serialization. I'm not seeing JSON configuration file to pass to Docker D, environment variables pass to Docker D, IP tables rules. So, nerd control. Haven't heard of that one. Okay. So config file, Docker D config network. Is it possible to configure the network that way? Packet filtering and firewalls, config. Docker configuration file. Docker daemon configuration overview, cool. What is the format? Configuration options and Docker D reference docs, okay. Network. Bridge network IP. Attach containers to a network bridge. Address pools. Default network options. Docker add network by default with configuration file. Network mode host. Oh, that's Docker Compose. So if I just leave host off, what if I do that? Or network host off. If I go back here and do not put, oh, it's not there. Is that the default value? Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's try it this way. Oops, not that. Gotta run this one more time. We're learning some things, I think, sort of. Clement says, have you tried not configuring network at all? Yes, I just realized that might be the option. With a command line, not specifying any network config triggers auto network creation. Thank you. That's probably what I wanted to begin with. Thank you. Takes some time, doesn't it? All right, let's see what else is going on. While we're sitting here waiting for Geek System to do its job, we have to come up with other things to talk about, because otherwise you're just going to be watching me watching my screen. That's no fun for anybody. But yeah, it was kind of funny to write about going back to Geeks in the newsletter today, because whenever I sent the last newsletter, there was some surprise conveyed to me by certain people about why I'm switching to Void, which I never was switching to Void. I was trying Void and installed it on my main machine just to give it a fair shot. So in the end, it just was a matter of familiarity. I mean, Geeks, I'm super familiar with it. Even though you see me struggle with it at times on the stream, whenever you get it working the right way, it has a lot of value. Like once we figure out how to set up containers the right way, I think it's going to be supremely valuable. So this must be disabled still because of the previous failure. So let me try to re-enable it and then start it. It says it's been started. Let's go to messages. It looks like 2222 bind address already in use. Yes. That was, oh yeah, that's my mistake. That's because I actually do use that address for my something. So let's just give it 222. How about that? We're gonna enable it again because it probably got disabled just now, and we're also gonna start it again. Oh, I can't do that. That's one downside, is you have to keep rerunning update system or Geek System reconfigure to apply that configuration, which does seem slower than editing Docker Compose files, because that's easy. You just edit the file, run Docker again, and everything gets set up. Peter says, networking with Docker is a deep rabbit hole. You can do really nice stuff, though, like test applications on slower, flaky network connections and simulate packet drops. That's cool. And says, I'm awfully impressed with Geeks over the past 2 weeks on the main machine. It's nice. It has its troubles at times, but after being away from Geeks for a little while, there are certain things that I have come to really appreciate about it, like how easy it is to package new software, even if it's just for yourself. It's not as easy to do that for. Oh, let me say that again. Package software for yourself in an easily applicable way. With Void, you have to clone the Void packages repo and set up the way that they build their local packages. You have to build the package using their commands. Then you have to install the package into the local package repo and then use the command to install the package on your system. So there's like multiple steps involved to package a program yourself or to make tweaks to the package configuration. With Guix, you can just inherit a package definition directly in your own configuration and then make whatever tweaks you want, or write a completely new package config, write in your own configuration file. You don't have to create anything special, no extra files, no nothing. You can put it right directly in the configuration in your package list. And when you do that, you can just have it be in your configuration and Guix will set everything up for you. So it's super reproducible. And once you get used to writing code the Guix way for setting up your configuration, your services, your packages, etc., you can do a lot of stuff that you just can't do as easily in other distributions. So there's a lot of value. I see here that Forgejo has started, so I'm guessing this time it worked. So we're gonna go to messages. Trev says, is that how you would go about bumping a package version? Let me show you how I would do that, but let's check this first. I had that on port what? It was on 8081, localhost 8081. There's Forgejo, the initial configuration screen. So once we get through the initial troubles, it actually is working. And anytime I start up my machine now, I would have a local Forgejo instance running. And this is the point where I would like to try to configure things like PostgreSQL, etc., using a local Guix service. So we'll try that next. But first I want to answer Trev's question. I'll show you a direct example in my own configuration when I can figure out why this is popping up and not going away. It's definitely Forgejo. If you go to the Forgejo website, and I think it's somewhere FAQ. Where does the name come from?
Forgejo.
Forgejo. Okay, excuse me. I'm not pronouncing it exactly right.
Forgejo.
Forgejo. Something like that. Trev says, good thing I wasn't here for the first hour, so it seemed really quick. Yeah, lucky you. Not lucky for everybody else. All right. So I was going to my config. Purple Cheese says, that sounds way better than how I forced it out of my mouth. Yeah, it doesn't work very well for me either. I'm having to be very conscious of how I'm saying things. In my Emacs config, emacs.scm. So here, no, it's in my Emacs service. There it is right here. So here, what I'm actually doing is I'm telling Guix that I want to take the Emacs Doom themes package. This is not the most updated version of this config, by the way. It's a little bit weird. Let's go to Codeberg. Codeberg, davidwill.files. So long as Codeberg actually loads today. Let's see, davidwill. Come on. No, home services, Emacs. So in here, I am applying a transformation to the Emacs Doom themes package. So this is a package symbol. Yeah, hopefully it's not stuttering. It might be stuttering a little bit. Let me know if it continues to have trouble. So I'm using the Emacs Doom themes package, which comes from the the GNU packages Emacs XYZ module. So it's the Doom themes package. There's a problem with the version that is currently packaged for Guix, where it throws some errors whenever you are using it with Emacs 30, like the latest version of Emacs that's packaged in Guix. So in this, I'm using the options to transformation procedure that comes with Guix to apply a transformation to say, I want to use a specific commit. There's a transform called with commit that you can look up in the docs. I want to transform Emacs Doom themes to use this specific commit. So I'm saying for that package, I want to use a specific commit from the repo where the package comes from, and then just change the existing package to do that. I don't have to go and make my own version of the package to change the commit. I can just tell it to use a very specific commit. Yeah, Glenn was also having the same problem, and this is what I told him to do, and it seemed to work. So it's just a simple package transform. Another way to do that would be to inherit from the existing package definition and change those details, but it gets a little bit more fiddly when you start trying to change versions and commits and stuff like that, doing an inherit for a package, because you also have to change the SHA-256 hash as well. You don't want to have to mess with that. So if you use a package transform, you can change a package in place right here in your configuration. Like, I'm not doing this in a separate file. There's no package overlay. There's no weird stuff I have to do. It's literally code right here where I'm taking the existing package definition, which is scheme code, and running it through a function that transforms that package definition for me to change the commit. And then I'm returning that package object, the transform package object, in the list of packages that I want to install as part of the service, and it gets installed. I can do that to any package. So this is kind of what I'm saying. Like, you may see me struggling with Guix here and there, but the actual value day to day is super high because it's code. It's not some BS language or YAML configuration files or bash scripts that have to, you know, be messed with in some strange way. This is like actual scheme code that is pretty powerful. So there you go. That's the spiel for that. So now we're going to go back to our system config. I want to add a, let's see, Guix PostgreSQL. There we go. And the reason why you can actually install a package from a given commit is because, at least in the main Guix repo, they make a big deal out of making sure that you can get to the source of a given package to recompile it from scratch, the whole like bootstrapping from scratch thing. But because they do that, it gives you that ability to control which commit from a repo you're going to build a package from. So if you want to like the latest version, or if you want to work to use like the latest commit of a given project, you can do the same thing. You can use a transform and say with latest instead here to get the very latest commit from that repo. So you can get the bleeding edge version of any software that is already packaged in Guix by doing that. If you want to check out the package transforms, just look up Guix package transforms. Package transformation options. If you look here, there's with latest. And when you see these options here, they map to the things that you see in this A list. So with commit is mapping to with commit in here. And this is the syntax you have to use for with commit. So package equals commit. If you use with commit here, it's package equals commit. But if you use other things like with latest, it's just package. So with latest, and then Emacs Doom things that would give you the very latest commit for that package. There you go. I'll be making videos about this stuff soon because it's pretty important. And I think most people who start using Guix don't even get into this stuff until like maybe even a year until they use it, unless somebody else tells them about it, because they have to solve a particular problem. So useful stuff. Back to it. We're going to look at PostgreSQL service. So I'm hoping this will work. I'm not entirely sure if I can map a host port into a container using the bridge or whatever network it's using. Docker map local port to container. Forward host port to Docker container. Yeah, like a week later. Yeah. I don't want to use nethost. Okay. If I bind it to the IP address, which I don't actually know what it's going to be yet. Special DNS name host.docker.internal. Gateway.docker.internal. Does that work? Network bridge requires creating one, I think. Michael says, what if it's an Emacs package, but it's a bit dated? There's a later version out. That's exactly what you would do. You would use with latest or with commit. Yeah, I don't see a way in Guix to automatically configure the bridge. We looked at the Docker service configuration. So Guix Docker service. Was I looking at the latest information on that? Docker service type. Actually, I think I was looking at the code in the repo. Docker userland networking proxy package to use. What is the userland networking proxy? Docker userland networking proxy. So there's like a proxy you can set up. Huh. So, whoops, that was a key binding error. Enable proxy on by default. The default proxy. Okay, so it doesn't look like you can actually configure that at all. What is this article? Magic of Docker, process by import publishing. Yeah. Not certain about that. So I guess, excuse me. What I would like to do is have the Docker container be able to reach a Docker container DNS for host. Can Docker embedded DNS use the host network? No. Host DNS configuration. Host Docker internal DNS name to host. Host gateway refers to the default bridge network only using extra hosts to explicitly set blah 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 blah. That's not it. I'm trying to copy the host Docker internal. Anyway, what I was saying is I want to try to get a Docker container using a local service. Oh, come on. Hello. I keep pressing the wrong keys. Host Docker, what? Host.docker.internal. I want to connect from a container to a service on the host. Well, how about that? Connect to the special DNS name host.docker.internal, which resolves to the internal IP address used by the host. Cool. Does that work? I guess we'll find out. Does it work, though? This is Docker Desktop. I got a feeling that this is only for, like, development. Without network host, you can't go back. You can also add, use the host Docker internal if you started the Docker container with the add host Docker container internal host gateway. Ah. So in the OCI, you can't pass arbitrary parameters, it seems. It would be nice if you could. Network provision, image, environment, entry point. Can you do it by environment variable? So, Docker add host environment variable. No. I'm asking for too much here. Label file? What's that? Oh, it's metadata. Okay. Oslo says, what's the current issue? I'm trying to figure out how to bind a DNS name for the host gateway inside of the container so that it can reach out to the host machine. I don't want to use network host because, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of isolation. Plus, some of these services that you run in a container will pull up a bunch of ports, will open a bunch of ports, and they might conflict with each other. And it looks like you have to manually get the IP address of the bridge device, which is something you don't want to have to do. Bridge mode, actually, MySQL running on the Docker host from containers in bridge mode. Why not use a bridge? I mean, it's using a bridge. But the thing is, like it's like I'm saying, if you have a bridge, you don't have a DNS name to get to the bridge IP from inside the container without like hard coding it, I think. All right, so the question to prompt this stream is, can Guix be as good as Docker Compose? Well, I guess reaching into a a local system service from a container doesn't necessarily have to happen to qualify. So maybe what I need to do in this case is try to run PostgreSQL, whatever, PostgreSQL as a Docker container. And then try to connect those together and see if it works. Where is the docs? Wow. All right, so via Docker Compose, image, shared memory size. They definitely need a few more configuration parameters on the OCI container service configuration type. We can set up a password. We can set up a volume, but apparently we don't have to, which is cool. But let's do this. You don't have to use Docker or use lower level tools underlying all container tools, containerd and nerd control. Well, I do, because this is what Guix is using. So I'm limited by what Guix is doing. The whole point here is we're using Guix to deploy a Docker container locally as a way to have it be reproducible in a system config that you would want to deploy somewhere. So the reason why, let's say you want to deploy some services using Docker on a Debian server in the cloud. To do that, you would have to deploy the Debian server. You would have to copy your Docker Compose configuration over to that server, and then go in the server and run the Docker Compose config. Sure, maybe that's fine. Maybe that server is long-lived. You don't really need to do much to maintain it, whatever. But to make it really reproducible, where you could just stamp out VMs using the same thing, you could have Guix set all this up for you and generate a VM image with all the stuff already set up to run. Yes, it's not necessarily the only way to do that. There's plenty of other ways to do that, including just having some bash scripts to do it for you. But this is a channel that's, you know, very focused on using Guix. So we're trying to see if Guix can work for this. Let's add another OCI container configuration. Image will be, hey Benoit, Postgres. All right. Bridge, like in Star Trek? Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Ports. What is the port generally for Postgres? Port. Minas Mazer says, I have a web app in a Docker container and Postgres in another, and configuring as all they're on the same machine. That works. Do we really need a network? Well, if you use host configuration, you don't really need the network. But like I said, like sometimes you have conflicts between the ports that get opened in a container. If you use host networking, all the ports are exposed of apps that are running inside the container, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a container in some ways. You know, you're exposing it to the host machine, so better not to use that. 5432. So I would just say 5432. Should not expose the DB on the host network. Yeah, 5432. This configuration, 5432. That's easy to understand and remember. This one is definitely using the bridge device, so it's excuse me. It should be contained more or less. In fact, I don't even know if I need to set the ports here. They may be able to talk to each other, but I could be wrong about that. Volumes, it didn't seem we needed any volumes. Okay, but we can set an environment variable for the password. So Postgres password. Is it set to something by default? Default super user is defined by the user environment variable. It must not be empty or undefined. All right, so you have to set that, and it is possible to do that with the OCI container configuration. Environment. All right, so environment. That's a list. Zeal Gooseby said, Benoit coming in late and spouting off about best practices. Yes, Benoit is just trying to save us from ourselves here. We should appreciate it. Bridge is helpful to talk across stuff like between containers and some other processes on the host. Yeah. Benoit has credentials, you know. Benoit's an architect. He knows what he's talking about. I trust Benoit. Benoit's a walking, talking best practice. Benoit can build you a whole house, dude. Whatever Benoit says, I believe it. All right, so let's see. We got our environment variable set up here. Wait, this is a list already. Okay, we're just going to use typical A-list style. Just like on ports. This is Postgres password. Is that what it was? Yeah. There we go. Benoit says, best house crafting practice, don't slam the hammer on your thumb. I agree. That's never going to be a good time. Okay, I think we're good on that config. We may need... Oh. How about I just delete that? Now Cortani says, I'm a walking, talking needs practice. Yeah, I need some practice. Thanks, Michael, for the Postgres port. Also, don't fall off the scaffolding. Yeah, that assumes that you have even scaffolding. But Naokatani actually does know how to build a house too, so what am I saying here? Oslo says, by hammer, you mean thumb finder? That is a pretty useful device for finding your thumb. Peter says, don't walk under suspended heavy loads. We're getting a lot of best practices here that are great for construction work, but not necessarily for fixing stupid computer problems. Don't do crazy stuff on the scaffolding like using a step ladder. Yeah, that does sound pretty dangerous. I'm just nodding my head. I know nothing about manual labor. That's not 100% true. Michael says, but in reference to name resolution, the host system is usually running DNS mask with Docker. I don't know if that's the case with Guix, but it is in all Red Hat variants. Okay. Good to know. OSHA stream? Yes. We're going to be trying to see how many OSHA violations we can get in one stream. And then we're going to see how many days following that we can go without OSHA violations. I can say that I'm proud that I've never had a single OSHA violation that I'm aware of on a System Crafter stream. So I think I should get an award for that. Don't you think? One must always balance parentheses. Yeah, well, you definitely don't want to leave them hanging at the end of the lines like this because somebody's going to yell at you. If you write your code like this, somebody's going to yell at you. Purple G caught me. I'm not sitting straight. No, I can't sit straight because if I sit up, my head gets cut off. That sounds like an equipment problem. Let me undo the horror that I created here. Now it looks like Java? Yes. It looks like Java, and we're all going to throw up. I don't write schemes so I can make it look like Java. Okay, let's actually run this container and see if it works. And then I'll try to connect the two and see if that works. We'll try to connect Forgejo to the Postgres server and see if it can actually set a database up. If we can do that, then I'll say that this stream was more or less successful. But if we can't do that, then we got bigger problems. Now Katani says, always soothes the soul quite... No, nothing soothes the soul quite like Java. No, I don't agree. OCI container configuration image provisioner factory. Yes, that is what you would see as a variable in Java. Oslo says, I noticed when you typed single quote, it inserted the second one, even the buffers in scheme mode. Yeah, I know. That's annoying. I don't know which... Is that... I'm not sure which package I have that's doing that, but it is extremely annoying. And it's done that forever, so to me, it's just the way things work, and I just ignore it. For the most part. It can't be... Electric pair. I don't think I have that on, but maybe it is. Who knows? Let's see. Nil. Not on. If only there was someone here comfortable with Emacs. I'm comfortable enough with Emacs to just sort of ignore problems when they occur. All right, Postgres service has started. Cool. Let's take a look at sudo herd status. Make sure it actually is running and not just lying to me. It appears to be running. We've got Postgres running in a container. Now, so edit SQL, SQL connect. Can I do that? Oh, okay, fine. Localhost was it 8081? All right, so PostgreSQL, localhost 5432, username. I don't know what the username is. Are you case sensitive? Username. User? Okay, fine. Just tell me what it is. What is the default value? Okay, default user of Postgres will be used. Cool. Fine. Hello is the password. Database name. Guix? Sure, why not? SSL? Yeah, let's disable that for now. General settings. System crafters forge. The rest of this stuff, I think I'll leave it. Is data... Yeah, data is bound. Is var run Forgejo set up? Okay, cool. It actually worked. 5321 is a safe report. Okay. Ozloy says, I'm getting more comfortable with Emacs thanks in large part to your videos. Thank you. I'm glad. So Clement says on the Forgejo container, you should be able to reference the Postgres when using its name, Postgres. We should try that, actually. Because it's not localhost. That's wrong. I'm going to assume that everything else is set up the way that it needs to be set. Let's install. Database settings are not valid. Look up Postgres on 192.168, blah, 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 blah. 53. What are you talking about? Oh, database name. I don't have to have that created already. Don't you create it for me? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. That should work, right? 4 is a dangerous number in a countdown. DNS, maybe. I thought it would work. But I don't know why it says 5.3 here. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it tries to resolve it. I thought that it would actually... Unless... Oh, the DNS port. Yeah, it shows you how much I know. I just know software, man. I don't know administration. So, the question is, I'm giving it the provision name, but I don't know if that actually translates to the container name in the end. Sudo docker ps. It's named Postgres. Is that why it's called Route 53? You learn something new every day, folks. So how am I going to fix that problem? 5432. Somehow, because the OCI service DNS on that IP is not running. I wonder why. I'm sure localhost is not going to work here either. Either is due to host networking, Docker attached, Forgejo. Okay. Give me one sec. I'll try localhost. Localhost also not working. That makes sense. Let me go into an eat shell before I do that. So Docker attach. I wonder if I need to be a super user to do that. Oh, maybe not. Whoops. Did I just kill the server? Come on. Come on. Yeah, I killed the server. DB connection error. The other is a DNS connection error. Yeah, well, it's probably not finding that port open. Let me restart. Right. Let's just start over. Okay, try again. Unable to connect. Oh, not running. Enable. I don't like that it just kills the service and then disables it. Have you touched both containers in the network? So I have not specified a network. It may have created a separate network. That actually does make sense. I think that's what it told me. Problem is, you can't make it repeatable. I suppose the only way to do that is if there's some activation service script. So let me check that. Guix system activation script. Is there a way to do that? Activation script. Activation script. Maybe I'm not thinking of this the right way. Sort of manually as an interactive container. Yeah, I can. I think the problem is that the network, there's two different networks being run. How do I check that? IF config, IP config. There's the Wi-Fi. There's one virtual network. Ethernet. Okay. So I see only one virtual network. Yeah. Come on. Let's think. Usually there's a default network created, but to get the same default network, they need to be created together, like in the same compose file. Yeah, which is what we're not doing. Data Monoid says, took a pause, now I'm back. How much did I miss? Well, you missed me getting some things working, but it's not actually working to the level that Docker Compose would work, unfortunately. So what I was looking for, Guix manual, one time script, one-shot service once the system is booted. I think it's possible to do these things. Shepherd services. Seems a little bit lame to do this, but if Forgejo is also using host networking, this most likely would not work. It's not using host networking. It's using the sort of default networking device. I did have host networking on at first, and I noticed that the port 3000 that's running inside Forgejo container is conflicting with one that I already have open on 3000. So that's what got me started on this path of trying to isolate a little bit. So the problem I have is that I can't, you can specify what network the container should run on using the container configuration here, but there's no way to automate the creation of a network because that's a separate Docker command. So I don't know exactly how I would do that in Guix in a... Okay, so Clement says, I checked the Docker doc, DNS resolution for containers does not work with the default bridge on which both your containers are on. Thank you. So yeah, I need to create a network. I need to automate the creation of a network, which seems like something that Guix should enable, but it doesn't seem that we have that. It's possible to run a Shepherd service that just runs a script as a one-shot service, and then have the both of these containers. Well, I guess there's no way to say what they depend on, is there? I go back to the docs. So you can say what it provisions, but you can't say what it depends on. So that's a little bit weird. It seems limited. Like maybe not many people are using this yet. Yeah, I agree with Clement. You might need to create a user-defined bridge and attach your containers to it. I just want to do that in an automated way, and I currently do not see a way to accomplish that. Because I would like to just have a system config that you can just immediately use to create a VM or set up a physical machine with, without having to run any other scripts. there's got to be a way to do this. And I think that the solution is actually to write a script that runs as a one-shot shepherd service and runs early enough in the boot up process. So Guix shepherd, like before Docker. Yeah, I mean, we need to figure this out to make this reasonable. Okay, this is a shepherd service. There's the root shepherd service. Let me think. What am I looking for right now? The Docker service. If I can do something before the Docker service, that might work. I think the Docker service config is here as well. Docker config. Proxy, debug, environment variables. Yeah, there's doesn't seem to be a way to inject something that comes before a Docker service starts up. Requirement. List of symbols denoting the shepherd services that this one depends on. What if I go to the Guix code base, docker.scm, requirement, container D. All right, so this is the Docker daemon depends on these things specifically. And it's not extensible. Proxy path, okay, proxy path, sure. Oh, not specified. Let's see. Ooh, that's a nice little filter thing right there. That's cool. Yeah, you can't extend that command line either. Well, there is a network configuration, but it doesn't make it for you, unfortunately. So whenever you configure network in here, it's only used as a command line parameter and not for any other purpose. Wow. I have not seen this repo before, Benoit. That's cool. All right, that's awesome. Who is fish in the calculator? I hear that name. Fish in the calculator. Oh, Yakumo. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's an interesting repo to look at. I haven't actually dug into the source of that one yet. Implements a Guix native experience for services that are not yet Guixable. You know what? The right way to do this would be to run my own derivation. That's the thing, man. You get so used to the idea that you have to use the functionality of the distro as it's given to you, but in Guix, you can just take the code and change it and add the stuff that you want. So in theory, I would be able to maybe change these services, extend them, and send patches, obviously, to make this a bit easier to do. I think it would be nice if the Docker service allowed you to configure networks. It doesn't do it right now, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't let you do that. But I'll have to take a look at that repo. It looks like there might be some interesting stuff in there. services, Docker. Looks like they have their own configuration for that. Guix derivative incoming. No, that's the whole point is that you can have everything in a channel. So the cool thing about, wow, the stream is a little bit choppy. I can see it on my computer. Channels are just GUILE modules that you pull into your configuration. So you don't have to make a derivative of Guix. You can just pull in a new channel that you wrote into your Guix configuration, and it just gives you all of the GUILE modules right there. So it's pretty awesome. It's all Scheme, man. It's just Scheme. A Guix channel is just a folder that gets added to your Guix load path so that you can use the code and the package definitions, service definitions, etc. inside of your configuration. And you can even import. That's basically what you're doing. When you import, when you pull in the non-Guix channel and its modules are being added to your load path. And you can see in the Phantom config here that I'm pulling in non-GNU modules that come from the non-Guix repo. So it's literally just a folder that gets added to your load path containing Scheme code. So that's another reason why Guix is really awesome, is that it's just, you know, pulling code together. Let's see. Peter says you can create all the component and hook them together using Docker command lines, but that's very finicky. Yeah, I mean, what Docker Compose is better. I don't know if they use some internal APIs or something else to do what they do. Write a little MDNS server and host. Is it that easy? I don't know much about that. Like I said, I'm not a networking person. I know a lot about code and software, but when it comes to networking and administration, I don't know much. Peter says Docker also manages the names of the services with some naming scheme to hook everything together. Yeah, they do some stuff internally, which is nice. I guess Docker Compose does that, right? Benoit says you could do scheme to compose. That's an interesting idea, actually. Why not? Yeah. See ya, Osloy. Peter says, but Docker Compose and Kubernetes exist, so why? Because I want to write Scheme instead of YAML files. I mean, I would not ever recommend that someone who works at a, you know, an organization that's using these tools to just like drop everything and use Guix instead, because there's obviously limitations. But for someone like me who wants to actually manage systems with Guix, it makes more sense. Now, the best thing to do for all of this would not use containers, but to actually use packaged software in Guix. But like I said, things like Forgejo are not packaged. Forgejo is a Go project that has a ton of dependencies, and I don't think anybody has tried to package those yet. Yeah, so it's not in the package repo. I mean, there is a package in that channel that Benoit just posted. Where is that? OCI, no, not there. Modules, well, I thought there was. I guess it's just a container in that case. Peter says maybe someone made a GUILE API to talk to the Docker container. GUILE Docker, let's see. Docker container for GUILE scheme, no. Wow. So the actual stream we're on right now is already showing up as a result in Google. That's funny. Docker and Guix. Docker module. No. GUILE SSH. Anyway. I would imagine that there is a protocol that could be used to talk to Docker and do some stuff with that. Docker Python. Is there a way to talk to Docker SDK for Python? Is a library for the Docker Engine API. Docker Engine API. No. Docker Engine API. What is that? RESTful API. Is that on the local machine? Interacting with the Docker daemon. So it is possible, especially if it's just a REST API. Easy. If you can create networks with that, networks. Of course, why not? Create a network. Network's name. Cool. Driver bridge. Looks good. So yeah, it looks like someone could write a GUILE client for the Docker Engine API and then just run that stuff directly. That'd be pretty interesting. But I guess at the end, you have to sort of decide what you want to spend your time on whenever there are many ways to accomplish the same goal. Is it easier to write a client for the Docker Engine API to automate some of this stuff in the context of Guix, or is it easier to basically wrap Docker Compose, or is it easier to package the software instead? I don't know. It's better for everyone, I guess, if you spend time packaging the software for Guix so that everybody can just use it. But it is a lot of work. Some software does not want to be packaged in Guix without a lot of difficulty. Trev says, I think I would choose do nothing. Well, you didn't choose do nothing. You chose to install Gentoo, which I don't think is is the nothing option. If you chose do nothing, you would just use Fisher-Price Microsoft Windows. Shots fired. All right, before I get myself into trouble, I should probably end the stream. So I'd say we learned some things today. We learned that there are limitations to setting up containers and connecting them to the host environment in Guix, but it feels like there is enough there that it can be built on, and something pretty interesting can be set up in the future if someone's motivated enough. I would love to host Forgejo using Guix on a server somewhere, but you know, I need something like this to work. Peter says, in the end, Docker Compose and Kubernetes files you write are just trees of data. Nothing prevents doing that in S expression, ISO, YAML. Yeah, of course, for sure. And data maps trivially to the REST API calls. If it does map, then that would be pretty nice. If basically the API calls look a lot like the parameters to the command line apps, or you know, it's just easy to translate, then it should be pretty easy. Pretty easy, famous last words, to automate it with Guile instead and just use S expressions. It'd be pretty cool. Peter says, I think Guix integration is good for running a simple service. Yeah, well, I don't know. I want to do some more, what do you call it? Ambitious things, but it takes time. I need to make some time, find some time. Networking and volumes are separate commands. Yes, that's true. Okay, so like I said, we did find, we learned some stuff today. I'll drop this configuration into the show notes so you can check it out for yourself. And that will be it for the stream. I do want to mention one more time that I did open the registration for the June iteration of the Hands-on Guile Scheme for Beginners course. 8 weeks course. It's an 8-week course, interactive course where you can learn Scheme and practical programming with Guile Scheme. And also functional programming, which is, I think I'm finding that the functional programming part may be the part that people get the most out of in this course. So if you're interested in functional programming with Scheme, definitely check this out. Check out the link in the show notes, or just go to systemcrafters.net and you'll see the link to it on the main page. But the course starts on June 8th. Registration's open now. And it will go from 8 weeks after that date. So sign up for that, or ask questions in the comments or via email, david@systemcrafters.net if you have any, and I'll be happy to answer them. All right, folks. Like I said, I'll be streaming a little bit more this weekend on the Spring Lisp Game Jam, as I've been doing all week, just so I can try to finish up that game project. And then next week, my plan is to get a video out for the first time in probably a year or more. So we'll see if I hold to that. That's the plan, though. We're going to try to do it. So until next time, I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and come drop by and see me this weekend while I'm doing Game Jam hacking. And until next time, happy hacking. We'll see you.